Hello students, hope you all are fine. In this video, we are going to discuss from your textbook in Political Science for class 12th. Book 1, Contemporary World Politics. Book 1, Contemporary World Politics. Before we enter into the chapter, first of all let us see the meaning of the word contemporary. The dictionary meaning for this word is the present time or the modern time. Modern time in this book refers to the political story of the world that began after the World War II. Now let us come in the chapter. Today we will see chapter number 1. The name is the Cold War Era. Chapter 1, the Cold War Era. Now listen to this very carefully. The Cold War was a state of political and military tension after World War II between powers in the Western Bloc and the powers in the Eastern Bloc. Historians do not fully agree on dates, but 1947 to 1991 is common. So, the period of the World War I was 1914 to 1918. Please listen to this very carefully. This is important. I repeat, the period of the World War I was 1914 to 1918. The period of the World War II was 1939 to 1945. And the period of the Cold War was 1947 to 1991. 1947 to 1991. The chapter also views the non-aligned movement, NAM, as a challenge to the dominance of the superpowers and describes the attempts by the non-aligned countries to establish a new international economic order as a means of attaining economic development and political independence. Now let us begin the story with the topic Cuban Missile Crisis. In this part of the video, we will discuss first two topics. Topic number 1 is Cuban Missile Crisis, and the topic number 2 is what is the Cold War. So kindly pay attention, all of you. First of all, topic number 1, the Cuban Missile Crisis. The Cuban Missile Crisis was a high point of what came to be known as the Cold War. Cuba was an ally of the Soviet Union and received both diplomatic and financial aid from it. Nikita Khrushchev, the leader of the Soviet Union, decided to convert Cuba into a Russian base. In 1962, he placed nuclear missiles in Cuba. The installation of these weapons put the US for the first time under fire from close range and nearly doubled the number of bases or cities in the American mainland which could be threatened by the USSR. A clash seemed imminent or sure to happen in what came to be known as the Cuban Missile Crisis. So this was a short story of the Cuban Missile Crisis. And now let's go to the next topic, and the next topic is, here it is, what is the Cold War? So in the beginning of the chapter I have already given you the definition of the Cold War, but now we will discuss this topic Cold War in little detail. So now listen to this once again very carefully. The Cold War in real terms. In 1945, the Allied forces led by the US, Soviet Union, Britain and France defeated the Axis powers led by Germany, Italy, Japan, ending the Second World War. The duration or the period of the Second World War was 1939 to 1945. Also in 1945, the Second World War ended and the Cold War began when the US dropped bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in diplomatic manner, causing Japan to surrender. Both the powers became reluctant to initiate war to protect world from large-scale destruction, as they were aware that it will not lead only political aim to them. Critics of the US decision to drop the bombs have argued that the US knew that Japan was about to surrender and that it was unnecessary to drop the bombs. They suggest that the US action was intended to stop the Soviet Union from making military and political gains in Asia and elsewhere, and to show Moscow that the United States was supreme. US supporters have argued that the dropping of the atomic bombs was necessary to end the war quickly and to stop further loss of American and Allied lives. Whatever the motives, the consequences of the end of the Second World War was the rise of the two new powers on the global stage. With the defeat of Germany and Japan, the devastation of Europe, and in many other parts of the world, the United States and the Soviet Union became the greatest powers in the world, with the ability to influence events anywhere on the earth. While the Cold War was an outcome of the emergence of the US and the USSR as two superpowers rival to each other, it was also rooted in the understanding that the destruction caused by the use of atom bombs is too costly and very dangerous for any country to bear. The logic is simple yet powerful. When two rival powers are in possession of nuclear weapons capable of inflicting death and destruction unacceptable to each other, a full-fledged war is unlikely. Therefore, the backdrop of the end of the Second World War led to the beginning of the Cold War. So this is all that we have discussed in this first part of the video, and in the second part of the video we'll continue with the next topics, and the next topic is going to be the emergence of the two power blocks. The emergence of the two power blocks. So, thank you so much, dear students. Take care and study hard.